Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Hop on brewerytours.com.au because beer.
Every business knows they need great marketing, but it's often hard to know what works and what you should be doing, let alone finding the time to do it. Abby and her team at Crisp Communications take all this hassle away, creating beautiful marketing that helps businesses put their best foot forward. They don't just deliver great results, they're also super easy to work with and practice what they preach with great communication all along the way. So if you need a new website, new branding, new brochures, or even help with your podcast, head to crispcoms.co to find out more.
Loman's got another set, he's got it this time! There's no denying high-flying Kai.
Go. Again, a dangerous ball. Wilmot straightens up, and there we go.
Hipwood. He's got Morris over the back on his own. What movements from Brisbane.
Will he take the shot? Oh, fine Morris.
Oh, he's
Look
pulled
at
that
that.
perfectly.
That is brilliant. They are on fire, the Brisbane Lions. Ball here. Oh, McLaughlin! Good boy!
It feels like the night the Brisbane premiership defence truly began.
23 years in the making. It was Brisbane going down to GMHBA Stadium to take on the Cats. Paddy Dangerfield's 350th game. The whiteout with 40,000 shirts printed for the crowd. Tyson Stengel's 100th game, who cares? All of it on the line, and hand up, I gave us absolutely no chance to win this game. I said I was scared 2 weeks out. I thought we were going to get our pants well and truly pulled down. But we head into the bye with definitely an air of vigour. Kai Loman was back to his best. Logan Morris with another bag of 5 goals in enemy territory. Harris Andrews was well and truly back to his best. Charlie Cameron had a pretty alright game. The midfield was back to their best, with even Lockie Neal having a fairly quiet game. And easily the best win for us in the 2025 season, Patrick. I was violently ill on Friday. I had to leave work at about 11 o'clock and barely made it through the match in real time. And that has stuck with me throughout the weekend, but we're here to finally discuss our Friday night match against the Cats, which I'm sure everyone has been looking forward to and have been chatting to their mates about across the weekend because, as I said, best win of the year. Topples the Hawthorn one, topples the Bulldogs earlier, and the Geelong game earlier in the year as well. How good was that?
It's really hard to put into words. I think, you teed me up with a pretty difficult kind of soliloquy to follow, I got to say. So thanks for that. Is it bold to suggest that I was faithful? I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you certainly were.
What were the immortal words of mine? We match up pretty well against them.
Yeah, and I left that podcast last week and I did think about it, and I was thinking about the one-on-ones all around the ground, and I thought, you know what? He's right, we do match up well against the Cats, and I think that was actually those thoughts were echoed on the Wednesday night first crack, I believe, when they said we match up fairly well. Maybe it was not that particular program, but someone else did say that I think these teams match up pretty well. And obviously we've won our last 3 against the Cats, and the talk since then has been that Fagan knows how to pull Chris Scott and his methods apart.
I don't want to kind of tempt fate in that sort of a way and say, it's definitely not it could be seen as a style thing, but I think both teams are actually quite similar. We just have a better midfield rather, and they probably have the more highly regarded key forward, who tends to be. This was Jeremy Cameron's best game against us in quite some time, and even then he required 50-metre penalties to score goals. So, who's laughing now? But I think, on the whole, even when I heard that Gardner was pulled out of the game due to illness, so something must be going on. I heard about some sushi, perhaps.
Yes.
But even when I heard Gardner was out, when you look at the way that their forward line is presented, particularly without Ollie Henry at the moment, that was the big one for me. If Ollie Henry was in the side, I think that game could be quite a bit different because you're then lacking. But if anyone wants a funny read, just jump onto the Brisbane Lions subreddit and look up the part where Gardner's announced as being out, and it's hilarious. We had people baying and crying for Dara Joyce to have been named in the emergencies, and I think it was just a case of, well, it doesn't really matter. We've got a player for each of their guys, and we'll move the ball quick. Now, I don't think that that's going to be a sustainable thing going forward, because if anyone has, 2 keys, 3 keys, you run into trouble. But for this game, it worked, and it enhanced what I think the strategy was going into the game anyway. But we'll come to that when we get to the beautiful forward half intercept jamboree that was the first quarter. So, Brooksy, tell me about the team. Who was in and who was out?
Yeah, a couple of... obviously, Jack Payne out. We knew that. He's gone for the rest of the season. That was confirmed on the Monday. He's had his surgery. We're going to be without him for a while. So we're going to have to face a future without Jack Payne. Tom Duday, which we'll have a chat about later as well. Cal Archie was the other one that was a late-ish withdrawal, who was also ill, potentially gone to the same sushi place. In came Will McLaughlin. We did sort of hope that he would be... Well, I certainly said I want him in, either at the expense of Kai or Charlie. Wasn't to be. Came at Cal Archie. And I think it worked pretty well. The thing we probably wanted to see from Cal Archie was the role he may play on Tom Stewart. And Bruce Reville came in as well. And he started as...
Tell you what, his hair has grown.
Oh, yes.
Brucey. The cornrows were down past his shoulders. So, a bit like me. I don't have my hair out very often, but it is quite long. So maybe if we win the premiership and Bruce Reville is playing and gets medal, I will tempt the fate of cultural appropriation and cornrow my hair. So
I'm so glad that's recorded, and we can look back on that in due course. We flew down a day earlier, so we flew down on the Wednesday, very much like we did on grand final week. And as Nathan Buckley put it this morning on the Monday means test, a bit of maybe Pavlovian training that we sort of got in our minds, right? We're down a day early. That means this is a big game. We've got to bye next week. There's no tomorrow. Chips in on this one. And I think we all sort of knew that was there as well. With that stretch of 3 games, we had Adelaide, GWS, Geelong, all sort of top 8 teams, all good teams. We wasted 2, golden opportunities against the first 2, and we were staring down the barrel of going 0-3. So all that stuff I've mentioned over the last couple of weeks, Paddy Dangerfield's 350th, that the wide-out game, all that sort of stuff. Geelong in absolutely red-hot form, just dismantling teams. It was obvious that this was a big game, and we treated it as such, and everything that was wrong with our method and our game style last week, the defensive intent, the tackling pressure, the forward half game, the accuracy in front of goals, that all just flipped this week, and it was all there to be seen. The little things of celebrating spoils and getting around teammates, when they do something good, every play getting to Darcy Wilmot when he kicks that goal, Cam Rayner spoiling the ball in the forward half, everyone getting around him in that aspect, smiles on the faces, all that stuff that's been missing the last couple of weeks. It was all there in spades against a genuine top 2 team. And in the lead up to this game, the fixture difficulty for the remainder of the season was released. Geelong has by far the easiest fixture leading into September, and we've got the hardest. So all that stuff just sort of added into this immense performance on Friday night.
Did you hear Cam Rayner talk after the game about, they kind of had phrased it as a bit of a brotherhood kind of trip down, which was, I believe, the idea of Danny Daly.
Yeah.
Which I think Faye shed some light on in his post-game interview. Funnily enough, didn't do my homework again and didn't see his press conference because I waited around and I watched Chris Scott's really interesting one where he has I thought, quite a curious exchange with a journo from Canberra who normally reports out of Monica,
yep,
asking very specific tactical questions that Chris Scott you could see was really tickled by.
Yes.
But was like, hey, I don't normally talk about this stuff. But you could tell that he was like, oh, cool, this guy kind of understands what's going on. I thought that was really completely unrelated to anything else fantastic that happened in the game. That was a funny moment that I kind of liked. But yeah, I watched Chris Fagan do interviews on 7 and Fox, but just didn't see his press conference because they didn't show it.
No,
So
it took
cool.
a while for it to be uploaded on the internet as well. So, but yeah, I mean, nothing really to take away from that press conference. He was very happy with the way it all unfolded, and as he bloody should have been.
So the whiteout, elephant in the room. Now I understand it kind of makes sense, but a lot of the descriptors around it being like the Penn State thing didn't really make a lot of sense. So my partner spent quite a lot of time in America, and went to like college and university games and stuff like that. So the explanation that she gave for it is the reason that those places do it is because a lot of the people on campus don't actually own things in the color of the teams that they're going to watch. So people just turn up looking normal. Whereas at an AFL crowd, generally you'll be able to tell who supports who. So I don't think it's the sort of thing that will kind of happen frequently, but it made our guys look really cool, I got to say. The couple of
the bays,
of tiers in the back, they looked fantastic. And I've heard from some not so happy Geelong locals that they were absolutely raucous and disgustingly loud. So I also heard a Lions chant go up in the fourth quarter, which I was happy about.
And Bruce when Rev got the ball as well. So yeah, really good to hear.
Unfortunately, couldn't get to the game myself, so couldn't get a ticket. But that's the way that it is. So there will be hopefully other times. But yeah, first quarter, man, we started pretty hard. There was a show of intent. I think some of the right people were involved early. There was a kind of a kick out of midair by Charlie Cameron, and obviously there was a nearly mark by Kai that just sort of, it really set the tone for two people. Now, again, Fagan said that he told Kai on Sunday last week, hey, you going again?
Yep.
Which does raise the question, had Callum Archie not been fit, would McLaughlin have played? Would McLaughlin potentially have played ahead of Charlie Cameron?
Maybe.
Hard to know.
But the 5-day turnaround, I think, was probably enough to deter them selecting basically anyone. I mean, Oscar McInerney played a great game last week, but I think the 5-day turnaround was enough for Fags to go, nah, you're still sitting out for another week. So I think that would have played a big part in it. But as it was, obviously, Cal Archie sick, and they said, well, Will, you're playing a full game here.
And good, because, as I said, I mentioned that he was a Colac boy. So, and although he had like a box of people that were up there on his debut game, it was nice to have them, locally go to support. So that was good for him. But yeah, it was a hot start. Kicked the first 4 goals of the game. The first one obviously coming from some Bailey Smith stupidity. And good to see Levi on the board. And it just sort of settled us because we did have a couple of set shots that went awry early.
Yep.
But tactically, the writing was really on the wall for what we were trying to do, which was to intercept the ball, play proactively, and try and work the ball off the line to try and not let Geelong set up and also not allow the kind of weighted numbers. We were going to kind of one-on-ones or free men that suited us rather than that didn't.
Yep.
So, you could tell a lot's been made of the teasing distance and players kind of covering too and kind of baiting those kicks that we did to Geelong. But goodness me, the closing speed on guys like Wilmot and Fletcher and
Cammy Rayner as well, yeah.
Yeah, Cam Rayner was just Zach Bailey as well. Really, really good and really, really important and a big showing of intent. It was a big smother by Cam Rayner early in the game too. So a lot of signs were there to kind of say that, hey, we're kind of on here. And you can really tell with us sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can tell when we're off as well, on the other side as well. But one thing that was very noticeable, especially early on, was Zorko, especially when taking the kick-ins, he wasted no time whatsoever getting that ball in. And even if it was a turnover, he wanted that ball on the shoe as early as possible to try and get the ball moving forward and destabilising them as soon and as much as possible.
Yeah, he was pivotal to our kind of proactive thing, but far out he rides his luck sometimes because there were 3 pretty dirty turnovers where you're like, if Brian Myers hadn't put his shoes on backwards, we could have been in a bit of strife in that first quarter. Just in terms of, not kind of having that scoreboard pressure. So he still frustrates me. And, I understand I have some interesting takes on the Zork, but I think there's an element of randomness that I think can come from particularly 2 players in the squad for me. And one is Zorko and one is Charlie Cameron, where they can do stuff that's fantastic and they can do stuff it's sort of a floor and a ceiling thing, whereas a lot of the other players in the squad and in the team tend to be a bit more middling.
Yep.
So that makes my anxiety peak. So, is what it is.
I thought all in all,
goals.
he was really good. And I mean, there's plenty of players we can talk about. I don't think there was a single player on the list that had a bad game. To echo my point there, I thought probably Lachie Neale was one of our quieter on the day. And that's largely because Tom Atkins played out of his skin. He was by far and away the best Geelong player on the day. But I thought...
I think Lachie basically was like, hey, look, take him on for the team here.
Yeah. Yeah, big time.
And that's an absolutely... let's say it's a completely opposite thing to do for your team. Albeit getting the same result as a certain Collingwood situation. So I like the team first approach, not the individual, with the team helping them. So read between the lines, everybody.
Very few passengers this week whatsoever. I thought, when, especially when Bailey and Rayner are playing good games, that is a really good indication that the rest of the team is humming, because their floor and ceiling is obviously night and day. But when they're both on playing the footy that they played, you're in for a fairly good day. So that was a really big one, and those 2 were both huge across the day. Votes very tough this week. Very tough this week because there's so many players like Jasper Fletcher, amazing again. Like I said, Zorko was really good. Lohman. Like, how good was it to have Kai Lohman back?
I think Lohman back just creates an element of threat that hasn't been there, and it creates headaches because he sort of, what are you to do with him? He's mobile, he can take marks, he's good at ground level, he kind of covers everything, and there's a few guys that do that. But yeah, I think that players, virtually everyone had moments where they kind of had things go pretty bloody well for them across the game, which is really good. I'm still really impressed with Sam Day's hands in close. Yeah. I think he's got really underrated hands. And there were just times where, like, it didn't happen often, but when it had to happen that we were kicking long up the line, he was just like, fuck it, I'm smashing the ball out. And it was like, perfect. That's exactly what we need. We just need a stoppage and some territory because we're murdering them in stoppage. So, it was good to see. A couple of lucky ones. Rayner got a good bounce, and
he did.
Lohman kicked one from the boundary line, and Wilmot kicked. How I really like when Jared Berry kicks a goal.
Yeah.
I know that you're the same with Wilmot.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not far behind.
Who doesn't love Darcy Wilmot, strutting in from the centre square, just like running through to 50 and just chipping one through, and then just the elation on his face. It's great. It
was virtually the perfect first quarter. Dangerfield had no opportunity to do anything in that first quarter. Starcevic wore him like a glove.
Yeah, he was... I know how good Brandon Starcevic is, and I guess in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, he's been out for such a long time. He's missed a block of training. It is going to, he's not just going to come back and be an A-grade small defender. But yes, he is actually. Him and Answorth, who has stepped up immensely, and then throw in Jasper Fletcher, who's playing in a pivotal role across halfback, who is more often than not disposing of the ball at 100% efficiency week in, week out. It is just it's crazy.
Well, I think one of the things that's gone a little bit under the radar is actually how good and important Starcevic has been for our ball movement as well, because he's an awesome kick too. He makes really good decisions. He puts the ball in really good places.
Yeah.
And then, Answorth he's reliable. He doesn't rarely get beaten. Like, there's been what was it, like Jack Higgins or something that had a pretty good game? It's like, who cares?
Yeah, he
like,
had one off week, but yeah, whatever.
And it happens. Not every week are you going to perform perfectly, but the defense was really swift. They basically did to Geelong what Geelong's forwards wanted to do, which was create a chaotic game in their forward 50, and we just said, no, look, we're going to win our one-on-ones and go back at you the other way and catch us if you can, and they couldn't. They got their first goal from
the worst.
Was the first one the Zorko one, where he's actually like 17 meters away from the kicker.
Yeah. And I didn't see it in real time. Obviously the 50's called, and then you see Zorko gobbing off, and you're just like, all right, it's been paid, just cool your jets, Zorko. And then they show the replay, and then you're like, actually, no, he's got a point. This is bullshit. Like, you've not paid the protected area all year, and then suddenly you're paying that? Like, what is happening here?
Well, so Zorko's had the season first descent and the season first protected area, of that level, like, insanity.
Yeah.
So, a bit annoying. I love keeping Geelong goalless in quarters of football. It's one of my favourite things that we've kind of pretty reliably done in the past year. Yes. Yeah, 3. Yeah, we do like doing that. It's good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Quickly as well, first and second quarter, the amount of ruck free kicks that were given away, both for and against, it was just an astronomical amount. And massive shout out to Darcy Fort, who I thought had an amazing game against Stanley and Blitzarves, various ruckmen across, and then, up forward, Neil taking ruck as well. I thought Darcy Fort had a fantastic game, and I thought Sam Days, the backup, was pretty good as well. But thankfully, that sort of seemed to die out in the second half. But stupid ruck free kicks, there was so many in the first half.
Fort's willingness to get his body in between Stanley and the ball or the contest, Stanley couldn't deal with it. And Stanley obviously was getting frustrated. Now, like, ruck free kicks are they're probably always there or always not there. Like, both things are true. And I can understand the frustration, but I also don't understand, Geelong baying for blood when they're actually, were one free kick fewer or something like that. So, and Shannon Neal was just panicking by the second quarter. He was just grabbing onto Harris at every opportunity. Harris absolutely monstered him. So the second quarter was, we put together some pretty good football.
We certainly did. I mean, it was 4 quarters of really good footy, and we won all 4 quarters. It was just really, really nice. It was really good. And even though I was feeling like absolute shit on Friday night being sick, it was really nice to just have that there as comfort. And definitely a game I'll be watching back. Like, I tend not to watch replays all that often throughout the home and away seasons, not until after the season's wrapped up that I go, oh yeah, that's a nice game to go back and watch. I think I'll probably try and find some time across the week to watch this one back. And, the last couple of weeks, I've sort of avoided, AFL 360, all that sort of stuff, because it's just like, what are they going to make of, some questionable performances? But now it's just like I'm trying to lap it up as much as possible. It's an incredibly reactionary game, footy, and we are part of that as well, I suppose. So, but
to a degree, I like to think that I've got a level of
you do
consistency, and which is probably says a lot that I don't watch 360 anymore. I can't stand Gary Lyon. And, I think the couch is getting a bit too crowded for me. So,
yeah, it's been a while since I watched Couch, to be fair.
Yeah, Fox Footy, I think, have dropped the ball. I think first crack, the real first crack, had Brad Johnson on it, and that was quite. People liked that. Jay Clark.
Yeah, Jay Clark. I'm not. Yeah.
Did you just a sidebar here? Did you see that he put forward a trade idea for Carlton and Sydney?
I did see that. Florin and McKay and some picks and whatever.
Well, so Carlton, this is a team that can't kick the ball, have no skilled kickers. Bring in Ollie Florent, who has the highest number of turnovers in the competition. Yeah. Match made in heaven. Like, great suggestion, dude. A good way to piss off both sets of fans and make me laugh. So it's good. Insane, though. So shout out to Day's kick to Ashcroft for goal, where he put him in scoring range rather than not.
Yes.
And although he wore a bit of front-on contact, that kick was perfect and exactly where it needed to be. So I love that. And McCluggage's check side was good too. So going into halftime, we were well in control, and I think there's just an element of fear that we can sometimes feel.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't really let Geelong... There were times where they had a bit of momentum, but they just lacked any kind of ability to convert that into sort of tangible scoreboard pressure. They were just kicking the ball out. They were getting 50-meter penalty goals. They were, all sorts of stuff. And we just we were deadly efficient. It would have been so annoying if it was the other way around.
And it has been, just like it was last week against GWS. So it was nice to have the shoe on the other foot this week, definitely. So it really does make a whole heap of difference, doesn't it? And I can imagine as a Geelong supporter sitting there and watching that going, what the hell do we have to do to kick a goal here? Because, players like Close and Stengel and Jack Martin is usually pretty good in front of goal, and Dangerfield doesn't miss all of those. 0 goals, 3?
Where did Jack Martin come from? Like, I was like, didn't he play for the Gold Coast, like, recently?
Well, no, he had a couple of years at Carlton in between.
Because it was sort of like where you see someone and I know who you remember, and it's a really awkward thing. I felt like that with Jack. I was like, who is he again? I don't quite know. Shout out to Cam Rayner for kicking the first goal in the third and the last quarter, though. That was quite good.
Yeah, brilliant.
Very necessary to sort of settle the nerves a little bit.
Yeah, big time. And 2 big-time goals from, on the 50. And it was nice to see the big number 16 just with the point up in the air as well. That was quite nice. He had a fantastic game, as I said, as well. Like I said, there was not too many passengers across the day. Charlie Cameron obviously didn't affect the scoreboard in the end. I thought his pressure was good. He did some really nice things, and we will have a chat about that kick to Logan Morris in the goal square, which was, how many times would any person take that kick and absolutely butcher it? In the last quarter, he did absolutely spray a couple of shots, including one over his head and stuff. But I think by that time, it was sort of like, okay, you can maybe afford to have a little bit of fun here. But yeah, it was interesting that kick to Logan Morris, because you see Logan Morris at the top of the screen and you're like, okay, well, Logie's on here. Oh no, he's taking a little bit too much time. Okay, you've got someone drifting in on the weak side, and then he shapes to kick it there, and it comes off the side of the boot straight to Logan Morris. And I guess we'll probably never know if that was by design or if it literally came off the side of his boot and just went perfectly to Logan Morris. I like to think it was all by design, but it couldn't have been any better.
I would be... so I said the other week when we were talking about Lachie Neale's head going into the ground, I sort of said that it's a bit like a boxer bracing for a hit. When have you seen Charlie Cameron miss kick a ball 50 metres? He can't kick the ball 50 metres unless he absolutely flushes it at the best of times. So, and it to me looks like mid-ball drop, he waits for, I think it's Humphrey, to go off of Logan Morris, and then just goes, all right, well, I've given you the eyes. It's a bit like a soccer guy taking a penalty where the goalie moves, and you just go, well, I'm going to make my leg go that way. It was an Irish kick, if you want to call it that. So, all intentional for me.
A couple of points I should make here as well, because I was hard on them last week. The Ashcroft boys, 5 tackles for Will, 2 for Levi. So registered a couple. Obviously, the tackle count was infinitely better this week than it was last week.
I think this might surprise some people, but I think that's Will Ashcroft's best game for the Lions. Most damaging game, I would say.
Sure.
He won a Norm Smith medal, but I think that ball in hand, he was more damaging, more efficient, more forward thinking, more penetrating with his disposals. And I think it was his best game.
It was a very good game. I thought the midfield as a whole, like I said, Neil was a bit quiet, but whatever. I thought McCluggage, awesome. Dunkley, I mean, how good was Josh Dunkley? Will Ashcroft was good. Bez was amazing across the day. No passengers. Everyone really pulled their finger out after a couple of really disappointing weeks, and just not too many bad things to say about this at all.
No, and it'll raise. I'm sure we'll talk about it with. I mean, we're probably not going to do changes this week because we don't have.
Yeah, we'll.
Why would we waste our time thinking about it?
Yep.
But I'll just, as an aside for Will McLaughlin, there's a really fantastic photo of him taking a hanger over the top of Other Henry.
Yep.
Other
Jack
Henry?
yeah.
Yeah. Not Ollie Henry. The one that looks like Blackadder from season 1 of Blackadder. In a good way. I like Blackadder season 1. It's good. He might not play a lot of football, but he's got that. And that is a really good photo.
Equally as impressive, aside from the hanger, which was obviously brilliant, but 5-10 minutes later, intercept mark in the D50 as well, and where he had been.
No, that was like 30 seconds later, man. It was like the same passenger. He turned the ball over and was like, "Hey, all right, going back." So same passenger play. So it was good, but I know exactly what you mean because it is I can see him being far more useful for another club. He's just unlucky because it's almost an element of Charlie and Kai have kind of played themselves into form.
Yep.
And you're bringing Callum Archie back when you can. So,
and then you've also got Link McCarthy sort of floating there, who, let's be honest, is probably not going to make it back. Is doing everything he possibly can too, but he's, get in line, because if that's the circuit breaker that Kai Lohmann needs, if he's coming away from that game going, actually, you know what, I can still fight for marks, I can take a bit of physicality with my body, and I can still kick goals. If that's the one game he needed to get that, little bit of confidence, a little bit of swagger, a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of dickhead about him, then hopefully the back half of the year is just going to build on that, and we can see the Kai Lohmann that we saw in September last year.
Yeah, it's all good thoughts. Anyone else to kind of talk about?
I mean, I
before we sort of
basically chat about this whole list here because they all were really, really good. Zorko's missed out on votes.
Eric had a funny last quarter. Can I talk about Eric for a second?
Let's
I know I just asked you, and then I just went and answered the own question myself. It looked like Eric in the last quarter it was like, all right, you're free. Go and run around. Like Ollie Henry's on the field. He's your weird younger brother. He's running around like an idiot. Go and do the same thing. And he was kind of in everything. Loved it. It's good. And I think Logan Morris providing the focal point for our attack is just given. Saw something someone said, it lets Eric be Eric.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I mean, there's a level of kind of condescending to that, I feel, but I've always loved what Eric Hipwood brings to I think he's a much smarter player than people give him credit for, and his work ethic is through the roof. So if he can just do what he can do structurally for the team, and I guarantee you Logan Morris isn't having as many one-on-one wins or marking contests without Eric in the team. If Eric's not there, he's probably trying to fish for those marks in packs, and it's probably not going to happen. So, and
I think by extension, I think Sam Day allows that to happen as well, because Sam Day allows Eric to do Eric and then Logan to be Logan. So I think it is. You're not gonna see the scoreboard impact from Sam Day and Eric Hipwood that you'd like from. I guess people see Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow and think, well, these guys should be kicking 4 or 5 goals each every week, but it's probably just not the case, and it's not the way our team is structured up, because it's, we rely.
don't make me get the calculator out again, man. Like, I don't think it's elsewhere in the house. I was using it for other calculations, I can only assume. So.
But, I mean, just to touch on your point, how good was that, that Eric Hipwood pass from centre wing, and he's calling for Logan Morris, like, come at me, and Logan Morris is like, no, I'm not going to actually. I'm probably just going to stay 5 minutes behind my direct opponent here. And Eric Hipwood just lace out past 65 metres to, the advantage position that caught Jack Henry out of position and got Logan Morris another mark.
Surely there's got to be an unwritten thing, because you have a lot of players leading and pointing and this sort of stuff, and then they put the ball in the good spot. There's no way when you're one out leading back to the ball and the guy can kick far enough that you don't say, hey, Eric, I'm going to point and run this way, but actually I'm going to stop and go the other way. There's no way they don't have that pre-organized.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But if that Eric Hipwood kick had been done by any other person, that'll be talked about for all week. But because it's Eric Hipwood, people are just like, oh, well, he must have rolled a 20 on the D20 and just got the perfect kick or something like that. So he doesn't get the plaudits he deserves sometimes, although other times he does when he kicks like 5 goals and a half against Bulldogs. So, yeah.
And look, we're due for one of those soon as well. All right, let's get into some votes. As I said, it is going to be tough this week, and the votes are, of course, things to hop on brewtours.com.au. You can go first this week.
Rats. So I have... What have I done here? I've lost my mind. I am going Bailey with 1 vote, Rayner with 2 votes, and Ashcroft with 3.
Wow, sure. It will surprise you to learn that we have not got a single player that is the same in these votes here. But at the same time, as I've said, like, it's hard to do votes, so maybe it's not all that surprising. Dunkley, the 1 for me, Logan Morris, the 2, and Harris Andrews, the 3 for me as well, because I thought easily Harris Andrews' best game for the year. A lot of that obviously comes down to Jack Payne being out of the team, because he surely would have got that Shannon Neal matchup. And probably tried to allow Harris Andrews to roam and take those intercept marks. Turns out, no, if Harris Andrews just plays back shoulder, he'll get him anyway. He was just impassable, and a lot of that came down to the way we were playing Geelong as well. And, shutting off the corridor, biting off those kicks that they wanted to take, forcing them to kick long down the line to a contest, which was Shannon Neal just getting outsmarted by Harris
He was
Andrews.
getting so mad, Shannon.
Well, yeah.
He was getting so frustrated. It reminded me of the Jake Lee Ringa Ringa Rosie dance at times in that sort of semi-final way back when. I feel bad not having Harris in the votes, because he was an absolute colossus.
Yeah, he was huge.
But I think, it's fine. I'm sure if we look at the coaches' votes, they probably include most or all the players that we have voted for. So,
and let's have a chat about Logan Morris as well, because obviously 10 goals in 2 weeks. I don't know if you saw the stat flying around this week that he's the youngest since Matthew Lloyd in 97 to do such a thing. It's
also a different era of football back then. I feel like 5 goals is like 10 goals. So who's the last player to kick 10 goals in a row? We've talked about handfuls and bagfuls and pocketfuls and saucerfuls and all sorts of stuff. So
he has obviously had a couple of really good weeks, but I mean, on the whole, a really good year. And thankfully, he signed that contract before he kicked those 10 goals, because he would have easily added another 100 to 200 grand on his contract if he was still in negotiation at the moment. So he is really coming along. Like, he is really, really coming along as a key forward, and he was huge again. And I'm glad that, last week, obviously, Cadman got all the plaudits, and obviously Hogan with his 6, but I'm glad the sole focus can actually be on Logan Morris this week, and he can get his moment in the sun.
Yeah, well, it's almost just like consistent performance, reward. And yeah, he was a bit forgotten last week, which is a shame. And I know I didn't put him in the votes, but he has this knack of just kicking goals quickly as well.
Yep.
You know, he crops up like a true classic centre half forward. And I'm glad that he's sort of the focal point of the team because he carries it well. He's generally pretty good shot at goal, and he loves it.
He does love it.
He loves it, and we all love it. There's not really much else to say.
I felt for sure you were going to put Josh Dunkley in the votes this week because he almost got your famed numbers. So he did hit a triple-double, so 30 touches, 11 kicks, 19 handballs, 10 tackles, only 4 marks.
Not enough marks. Not enough marks.
But obviously did the role on Max Holmes across the day, and Max Holmes had a good game. 23 touches, was one of Geelong's best on, but wasn't nearly as damaging with the ball as we know he can be. Same with Bailey Smith, but he's not.
Him and Bailey Smith just didn't do anything.
Yeah, they were
they didn't do anything. And I think so we were trying to obviously take the kind of inboard and kind of take their system out of it, but we managed to kind of the other way. Stop Geelong by doing that. Stop Geelong doing that by being proactive. And I think those kind of forward half intercepts early on in the game, they went into their shell and they panicked because they were like, oh, we can't kick the ball inboard. We can't do little chippy ones because they are on us. And, that's exactly where I think it would have been a directive because you got Rayner celebrating spoils, Smothers, the team really obviously knowing what the plan was. And it just meant that they had no flow. They weren't trusting their kicks. Like, how many times did they have a chain of possession? I mean, they probably had like 3. But our back half game was really quite similar to GWS's the week before. So, it's fun to see. And I also earmarked it a few weeks ago of Zach Bailey kind of running in that inside centre square channel, being like a link player. And the goal, is it the Kai Lohman one or the Logan Morris one where he kicks to Charlie goes back to him, and it's like, yep, that's exactly how you want Zach Bailey running forward. And he's obviously banished those demons from the bloody Adelaide game, so that's good for everybody. So
yeah, it's hard because it's sort of like, all right, I want to ride this momentum into the next game as well. It's a sort of, this time
give
last
him a break,
week,
man. Just give him a break. Let him take a week off.
We're limping towards the bye, and now I'm just like, I wish we could keep this going, but maybe Friday night doesn't happen without that. So it is a tough one, but yeah, the bye, obviously we do need, so that'll be good. And then Port Adelaide at home on the Saturday night to look forward to on the other side of that, who I can't get a read on Port Adelaide. But we'll have a chat about that next week. I could talk about this game forever. Let's leave it in the dust now, I suppose.
The Brisbane Lions Fancast is proud to announce we have our first run of T-shirts available for you to buy. The website to check that one out is ours, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au, and you can see the link right there. It should be towards the top of the page. We've got 6 shirts at the moment. We are going to be looking to expand that range over the next couple of months, and we are certainly welcome to feedback and suggestions of things that you do want to see, and we can hopefully make that happen for you. But for now, 6 shirts available for you, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. We would appreciate any support in what you may be able to afford and help keep the show running and rep our merch as well, because it's our first time doing this and we're very excited about the prospect of seeing these shirts in and around the Gabba and out in the streets. So brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. Get your hands on some Brisbane Lions Fancast merch.
How did you go with your tipping this week, Trader?
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to preface this with saying I was meant to change 2 tips. I was meant to go...
Sure you were.
I was meant to go tip North and change my tip to Sydney once I saw Gordon and Papley were in. And it wasn't until the game started, and then I was like, oh, fuck, I'm really sick. Whatever. So, Paulie is the answer. 3.
I'm only 1 tip behind you now.
Yeah, well,
After all of that absolute awful emotional tipping early on in the, I'm just one behind. I also tipped the margin as well for the game. Game I didn't watch, couldn't be bothered. I'm not watching Fremantle play Essendon, and I 41. So
nice.
I had 5 because obviously
Tip
didn't
Brisbane.
tip North, didn't tip Sydney. Did you end up sticking with Gold Coast?
I did.
Yeah.
And that was
Faith in
looking
the
good
wrong
for a
team.
while.
Faith in the wrong teams, my friend.
That was looking good for a while. So the only ones I really got were, I suppose, the same 3 that everyone would have got. Freo to beat Essendon, Collingwood to beat St Kilda, and the Dogs to beat Richmond. No surprises there.
I found it an interesting read because it was such a home team heavy round of tip. Home team heavy round of tipping.
Yeah.
And someone asked the question, when was the last time all of the home teams won in a round? And hilariously, the answer was during COVID, where all the games were played at neutral venues.
Sure.
Which kind of begs the question. But previous to that was 2016. So I wasn't going to waste my time watching the boring Collingwood play Saints. I watched the replay or our game again because I thought that would be more enjoyable, and it was. But this week, what do we got?
All right, Thursday night, Adelaide Oval for the 3rd week in a row for Port. They've got Carlton, who I would imagine are going to be front page of every footy media outlet at the moment. So,
how badly injured is Jacob Wiedering?
Well, he played it at the rest of the game, so...
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I hardly noticed him. So, yes. Well, I think that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go Port by 16.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Me being an absolute moron with my margins means that despite picking the correct margin last week, I'm about 500. So I'm at the lowest of any rank I will be at. I'm at the lowest.
Sure.
So I've basically done a Brisbane percentage thing. So I guess you kind of, talk the talk, walk the walk. I mean, can I get a skip on the next one?
What, Sydney Bulldogs?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can, but I'm tipping the Bulldogs.
I'm going to tentatively tip the Bulldogs, but I think that could end up being a Sydney change.
It's hard to tell. Now that Goulden and Papley are back, there are obviously 2 big ins. Amadi and Callum Mills are back in the team as well. Yeah, they beat Port Adelaide, but the Dogs are good. The Dogs are good. So,
Treloar, another calf.
Yeah, but fine, whatever.
I think the rest of these tips are basically a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, Suns to beat D's, Hawthorn to beat North, Collingwood to do whatever they like with West Coast at the MCG, at Marvel. Adelaide to beat Richmond, and Fremantle to beat the Saints. Jeez, there's a lot of 90%ers in this round of tipping, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's never going to work that way, is it? There's always an upset. St Kilda, I think.
Yeah, that could be one.
Fremantle are due to shit the bed. Like they're about due.
Yeah,
because they do it every
row.
4 weeks.
I wouldn't be totally surprised if Melbourne beat the Gold Coast.
Because didn't Melbourne beat them at People's First last year as well, like at the end of the season? We beat them, and it was like, oh, that's the first time they've lost. And then Melbourne did it the week later, and it was like, oh, I don't feel quite as special now.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, yeah. But other than that, yeah, that seems pretty easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, done dinner. I don't think I'm catching you this week unless I change my tip to Sydney. So,
or you could fall one more behind. All right, that being said, let's have a look at the Crisp Communications wheel.
How did Louis Taylor go?
Not well, my friend.
I'm assuming that's who I had because it was on my iPad, because I literally only used this iPad to research the wheel.
That's right. Yeah, we had Louis Taylor taking on Jed Adcock on the wheel last week, thanks to crispcoms.co. Your free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers available through Abby and the team at CrisComs. So that means it is your turn to pass or hold this week.
Cool. I like that level of agency.
Oh, Mal Michael. You're going to hold on him, I would imagine.
I'm holding on Mal Michael because I have to go into bat for the greatest fullback never to get an All-Australian Guernsey.
I knew that was going to be point one that you raised. Which gives me... Oh, Possum nodding.
I'm really glad I held there because
You don't rate Tim Nodding?
I don't rate Tim Nodding.
Really?
Yeah. There's a funny exchange I think we probably talked about when we were doing Nostalgic Players, where we were watching the team in about, I want to say 2008, 2007 maybe. And my brother, not the one that's in Germany.
Yeah.
We were getting belted. And he goes, yeah, see, the thing with our team now is back in the day we had Voss, and then our young players are guys like Tim Nodding. And now instead of Voss, we have Tim Nodding.
Yes.
And that's stuck with me forever because it was, he it's fine. He loved a long goal and I loved it. But if you're talking about the bottom six of your team.
Yeah. I see. It wasn't like, contrary to that point, it wasn't until about 2006, 7, 8 where Tim Nodding was still on the list. And, all of the stars, Voss et al. Had retired. And then Tim Nodding was sort of allowed to shine, if you will. And I thought, God, Tim Nodding's actually a pretty good footballer. And if we just never really recognised it because he was so far down the pecking order. But at that same time, he was making the team in an era where other genuinely good footballers weren't making that team because they were stuck behind all those players. But he was week in, week out. Obviously played 2 premierships, missed out on in 2003. Heavily underrated, Tim Nodding, across his career, I would have thought.
Yes, underrated, but still, yeah, he's still in the 2001 quintessential sort of team. He probably missed out because of what, Carousella in 2003?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, Carousella or Sir Richard Hadley that probably came in and stole a bit of thunder. But yeah, he's kind of in that group. It's funny because I think you could probably look at him and like someone like Robert Copeland.
Yeah, definitely.
As like similar sort of people that were in that team where you're like, oh yeah, but I love Copeland. And I don't know why Tim Nodding really gelled.
Yeah, it's strange.
Do I need to really talk much about Mal Michael?
I think it's worth it, yeah.
He was a Kenmore Bear, won the best and fairest at Kenmore Bears Junior AFL club, which was good. That's where I played under 8s. So just for anyone, as a 7-year-old. So I got, played up a year. Yes, he was the missing piece in our team, essentially. And I don't think I've seen a better 4-year stretch not be rewarded with an All-Australian Guernsey. And I'm talking about 2004 because he was unbelievable. Very similar, and I know Harris Andrews Blazers, but similar where they just had who had a good year every year that he missed out. And I know that he's a little bit miffed and a bit bitter about that, which, I love bitterness. But maybe, you've won 3 premierships, so it's probably okay. Kicked the most famous behind of all time.
One of the greats.
And just, pioneered he wouldn't fly in this day and age because his, quintessential double fist would be like, oh, why didn't he just mark the ball? But the power of the double fist, it was a statement and a show of intent to be like, I don't care if this is a ball or a head, it's getting punched twice. And I think that's the level of ruthlessness that we had as a club. But he's also bloody silky when he needed to be. Great handballer. So,
do you take any sort of shine off for his "that's it, I'm retiring"? Oh, actually, no, I might go play with Essendon.
No, because we benefited from that with Luke Hodge. So, and that's not the reason, because I just don't care. He was a Collingwood player before. He was an Essendon player after.
Yeah, so
but those parts of his career really don't count.
Part of the infamous Jared Malloy trade. I got to say the one
infamous, the heartwarming trade of Jared Malloy.
I must say that I remember when early on when I heard that Mal Michael was coming to the Brisbane Lions, the one thing I knew about him was that he was the guy that Tony Lookett took the mark on to kick his 1300 goal when everyone stormed the field, and I remember that so staunchly. I was like, oh, that guy. He was the guy 10 metres behind Plugger Lockett that kicked his big goal.
Look, he was having issues with his fitness at the time. Sure.
He's got a very good he's got a very good open mic episode as well that you can catch the full thing on YouTube. And I suppose you can't really say that for Tim Notting, who, I mean, God knows what he did after he retired, just sort of disappeared into the wilderness.
Like a possum.
But
one that's rattling around your backyard and you're like, oh, what is that? And then you go, nothing's there. That's Tim Notting to a T. So you tend to have insider knowledge. How did he get that nickname?
I've actually got no idea.
Oh, well, if you're not going to know, how's anybody?
Did love the occasional hanger. Did love a goal from, roaming in
70.
A la Darcy Wilmot, just sort of strolling in and just belting one. Probably from a little further out. But yeah, like I said, heavily underrated player. And yeah.
So much so that I underrate him.
Yeah, well, there you go.
This two sides of the same.
That'll be an interesting one for the socials. So have you saved our social pages, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff, because both from the early 2000s premiership era. What we haven't done is had a chat about the VFL, who also played Geelong on the early hours of Saturday morning, 11 o'clock. Come from behind win.
What are they doing that for? Why are they doing 11 o'clock?
Yeah, that's piss, isn't it? 32-point win, 117 to 85. Luke Beacon with a huge game, and Dev Robb again with a 14 tackler, if you don't mind. That is astronomical numbers. 29 touches and 1 goal, 1. Oscar McInerney absolutely dominated. 31 hitouts and 12 clearances to go with a goal and 25 touches. So he is well and truly back. But probably the big news to come out of this one is that Tom Doedee did not make it through the game. So he didn't make it through with a knock to the head, so some concussion there as well. A bye for the VFL next week, as with the AFL as well. So give him at least a week off, but God, he just can't get a run in it, can he?
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the Jay Polkinghorne that plays for Geelong. And it just... I was like, for a split second, you're sitting there going, is it? And then you're like, no, of course it's not. There's also allegedly someone called Jaden Ballantyne or something like that as well. So that's funny too.
Ty Gallagher,
I completely zoned out and didn't listen to anything you said.
Oh, cool. So Oscar McInerney, really good. Dev Robb, really good. Bruce Reville, pretty good. Connor McKenna, good. Luke Beacon, really good. Tom Doedee, concussed, no good. Is your takeaways, and Ty Gallop kick 4 goals.
And Geelong also have Jart and Pike running around for them. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I can see Oscar coming back into the team and making a run, a la Clark Keating.
Yeah.
Into many of his years where he's like, my shoulder's gone. I'll play 10 games and rock out a grand final and nearly win a Norm Smith medal. So he is hoping for that.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he doesn't come in against Port Adelaide. But as I said, Darcy Fort was really good on Friday night, and you wouldn't drop him based on that. But Oscar's had 2 game in the 2s now, and really good on the weekend, really good. So as long as he's not pulling up really sore and that back's not giving him grief, you would have to imagine he comes in.
I hope so. I think he deserves to. He's got it. He's got more goodwill than any other. And I think another player that's got a lot of goodwill is Darcy Fort for basically doing admirable jobs at very crucial times for this football club. You know, big finals and a big stretch in the team. Ford hasn't played this amount of ruck minutes in a row for us ever.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that, Max Gawn knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, big time. And at the end of the day, when all is said and done, Darcy Fort will retire a premiership player. So that will be more than comfort in his twilight years. So, but having said that,
I don't believe he would have expected that, but I'm glad that he has, providing that Oscar can get one too. So there's a caveat to that.
Yeah, and look, if Friday's anything to go by, back to back is back on. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Geelong have an absolute cakewalk into the finals. So I feel like there might be a preliminary final rematch in the first final, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's two teams that I'm sure we'll come across come September, and that is Collingwood and Geelong. And obviously there's going to be a makeup of other teams. But there's still 3, 6, 8 rounds of footy to get through for us and a bye. So, and there's some tough matches in there.
Yep. If anything, the season's taught us that we're willing to kind of rise to the occasion. So I don't fear the run-in. I didn't fear the run-in last year, and I know that kind of bit us on the arse a little bit with a couple of games. But, when we're hot, I still, our football is still the best out of anybody's. That first, quarter and a half, 2 quarters against Geelong, we're beating any team. I don't care who you got.
Yeah.
So, did we get any feedback about a Cara Wilson chat last week?
Actually not.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's just a perfectly cromulent chat about a...
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit of bite back on that one, but so far, nothing. So, who knows? It's one of those ones that'll just sort of sit there for a little bit.
Any unsolicited questions? I'm assuming your hellscape that you've been in didn't solicit for questions.
No, I didn't this week, and I thought next week we'll do a bit of a question fest, a bit of a mid-season stock take, because we won't have any footy to talk about. We'll preview the Port game, but we'll have a few questions and see where we're sitting at and things like that. We'll have a bit more of a chat about Oscar Allen, which I know you'll be keen to do.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
No, I know you're not keen to do it, but we will be doing it.
Oh, well, thanks for the heads up. Can we call it the Question Festivus?
We can do that.
Cool. I'm on board with that. I don't mind talking about Oscar Allen. He's fine.
Well, I mean, he's fine at the moment. His knee's cooked, but
no, yeah, but wasn't it kind of one of those ones where he did his plantaris, right? That's what Zorko and Neil have done.
Yeah.
Hodgie talked about it, and then they've probably gone,
well,
you know what? We're just going to do an arthroscopy and maybe tinker with some stuff. So he's probably fine. He'll probably be in better nick come the start of next season than he would have been if he had played, because he would have had the arthroscopy or whatever he had done anyway. It just would have taken a bit longer. So I don't mind that proactive surgery. It is kind of funny because hasn't that been what the corner's been saying all year? Of just like, don't play him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny. He's a funny guy, that idiot. So, what did you make of Windhager and Nick Dacos?
Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. What did you make of the coach's comments after the game?
Once again, I don't
Sad
care.
boy Ross Lyon, idiot Craig McRae.
Yeah. No.
I don't know what it is that rubs me the wrong way. Just the idea of Craig McRae going like, all right, Nick, you don't worry about this. We'll worry about it for you. It's like, that just reeks of my dad's going to beat you up. Like, we'll get the team to deal with it for you. Whereas Lachie Neale took it like a champ. He's like, I got Atkins all over me. I'm just going to hamstring around the field. Take one for the team. It's the opposite. And I'm so glad our team is what they are.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I had my coach coming out going, we need to look after this guy. We really need to look after him. Oh, it's so feckless. Is there any football you want to talk about other than the football that we've talked about?
Nah, I'm going to enjoy this for the next couple of weeks. That will certainly keep me happy. And we've got a game against Port Adelaide, which we should bloody win in a couple of weeks' time.
I'm just not even going to think about it. What's the point?
All right, well, we'll
What's
chat
the
about it
point?
next week then.
Yeah. I'm not... who is Port Adelaide? Don't know.